I'm sorry, David. Go right ahead.
Okay, so get ready to get your mind blown. Okay?
Because yours is always the right answer.
Let's hear the correct answer.
Let's see it.
So I think that season 3 will be all about Krista. Krista will be the main character, because it just makes sense for me.
Okay.
You know, you start off after Mead dies, like the first episode happens there. What happens with the baby, stuff like that. Then bam, back to when she's struggling with the bandits, and Clementine either helps or leaves her. And then after that, you take Krista's journey, and she might meet Lily. She might
That's
meet
actually
Molly.
a really good idea.
I like that.
I hope they steal that idea.
If any Telltale people are here, please use David's idea.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense, because then you can have, like, you don't have to be so stuck into what kind of ending you got. You can just, like, have this parallel story.
Yeah.
The only thing you know is that Krista is not at that place where Kin is going.
Wellington.
No.
Yeah, Wellington. But what happened to her? There's so many questions. What happened to the baby? Do we get to see her sew up her own wounds, or what you say, with a needle and thread? Yeah, she gonna do that and show it to Clementine and stuff like that. I think it would be a waste not to tell Krista's story.
And
And
I agree, having Lily be in there. The fact that Krista does not know much about Lily or her involvement with Clementine's party, that could lead to some interesting, whatever. Not only between Krista and Lily, but between the player and Lily, knowing what Lily has done and is capable of. But
I think Molly could die in season 1?
Yes.
I don't think Molly died.
She can.
Oh, she can. Yeah.
Okay, that's a shame.
But it's a game
Otherwise, I
over
would
then.
have wrote for her.
in the school building, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I think.
Alexandra?
Can
Kathleen?
I just say real quick that I think it'd be really cool if they did that and they showed Clementine in the future, like they went back and forth, like between her playing as Krista and then playing as Clementine in the future, and then they meet up at the end. That'd be really cool. Just saying.
Yeah.
And it would be a really nice love story for Krista as she tries to come over Umid and finds another person and stuff like that. Yeah. You're saying.
I do still believe Lily's going to make an appearance. I'm just saying that.
Alexandra, go ahead.
I don't really care what they do as long as they have an enough amount of female characters. That's all I care about. Yeah, because they did a pretty good job in season 2 until episode 4. Episode 4 ruined everything, but they did a pretty good job up to episode 3, and I want that. And I also really would like to see disabled characters. I have such a need for disabled characters.
Wasn't Arvo one?
Yeah, that's why when Arvo showed up, like in the trailer, you can see Arvo's leg. When the trailer on YouTube, you can see Arvo's leg for a split second, and everyone on Tumblr was freaking out that there was going to be a disabled character, and I want that. Like, I want to see how a deaf person.
Well, that's Tumblr.
Or how a blind person could feel on a zombie apocalypse. I want to see that.
That's really interesting that you mentioned that, Alexander, because there's actually some controversy about The Walking Dead and disabled characters, especially because of Sarah. A lot of people say that he was very poor representation of disabled characters within the game, and that it shows that there just is a lack of disabled characters in like survival genres. Even though handicapped people or people with disabilities, I should say, are extremely capable and can do things that I can't even do. Like, have you ever seen like wheelchair Olympics? Like, they can freaking.
Yes.
It's like they move faster than I can, so it's like I don't understand. Like.
And there wasn't a lot of controversy about how the Telltale employees themselves discussed Sarah and her involvement in episode 4.
I think let's go ahead and talk about that, because also Sarah is part of the reason why Alexandra's here, because she approached me because she wanted to talk more about Sarah. Okay. So let's go ahead and dive into that since it was brought up, and then I can answer the previous question afterwards. So Does anyone know all the information about the story of the accusations against Telltale on Sarah, on how she was being dealt?
It was kind of like I saw that episode where the director and the writers were there.
Yeah, they had an interview.
Yeah, and they said that the option to slap or leave Sarah was kind of a trick because a lot of people wanted to slap Sarah. A lot of people wanted to have an option to physically hurt Sarah. So the writers said those workers from Telltale said that they put that option because you had the option to slap Sarah, but if you did, you have to stick with her for the rest of the episode until she died later on. That's why they said they did that. And it's stupid because it's such a big plot hole because in episode 3 we saw what Sarah's reaction was after getting slapped. Yeah. So the fact that the only option to save her is slapping her, it's the biggest mistake ever. Like, you don't do that.
And yeah, and I agree, and I definitely agree that it's totally wrong that the motivation behind that was just to quote unquote troll or mess with the people who didn't like Sarah.
Yeah.
By giving them mixed messages like, oh, you really want to slap her, but now you're all of a sudden on the side of the people who like her. You want to stay alive. That just the motivation behind that was just all wrong.
Yeah. And it hurts so much because, as I say, I behave a lot like Sarah. Like, we have almost the same personality. I also, like, I'm shaking right now. My heart is pounding, my head hurts, just because I'm talking to you guys. And it's the same. You know, like, it's exactly the same that happens to Sarah. And when I see all these Let's Players that I've been following for so long say all these awful things about Sarah, saying that she's useless, that she's annoying, it means that if they met me in real life, they would think I'm annoying. And they would hate me because I'm exactly like her. And it hurts. It hurts. It really does.
I honestly feel kind of bad because I felt like that. Like, I didn't like her at first, but it wasn't until I heard, like, I started to read, articles about this and hear from fans about, like, how they responded to Sarah and how they found it offensive. And I was like, I feel so stupid. I guess it was an education process for me, like, I had to learn because, like, and that bothers me because I'm so passionate about diversity and like accepting everyone, and I guess this was just an area that I don't really think about, so I had to learn. So yeah.
You said on the last time that you wanted to slap Sarah, and it hurt so much. Like, it was right. I finally got the courage to watch it yesterday, and I swear it was a stab after a stab right to the heart of all the things you said. The Sarah thing. It's a really hard thing.
I think what we forget is that one of the things that Telltale does well is they are able to present these characters to us and make them feel like real people and not just video game characters that don't actually exist.
Yeah.
And when there's a character like Sarah that has something that annoys someone or makes them fodder for ridicule, you kind of forget that aspect of it. And even though that character is not a real person, you have to understand that they're representing a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I understand what you're trying to say, Alexandra. So if we offended you in any way during that podcast, I definitely apologize. I gave my reasons for making the decisions that I made with Sarah, and it wasn't because I didn't like her. It's because I was trying to help her.
He's a real monster. That's the truth.
Which is why I didn't slap her. But yeah, it's something that I think as people, not just as gamers, we just have to remember.
Yeah, when I saw that video, that I was almost crying because you said she has to want to be saved. She has to want it, and I was like, she does want it. Like, I've been in that situation. I've been like her, almost exactly. Not with zombies behind me, but I've been in that situation. And even though I can't talk, even though I can't ask for help, I want help, and I need help. The people around me, my friends, all know it. Like, every time I'm, like, frozen in place, they know they have to take me away, and they start talking to me and changing the subject. And they help me. Even though I'm not asking for help, they help me. They help me because they know I want help, and I need help. So when you said that, it was it hurt a lot.
Oh, I'm so
It hurt,
sorry.
Angel Arts. You see, you always got to give people a chance to live. You're a monster.
I'm a monster just like Kenny.
I think that's just one of many choices where you get to think about how much you are willing to sacrifice of yourself or others. What are you willing to risk to save yourself? I mean, I didn't dislike Sarah, but I couldn't. I mean, it was
You
hard.
didn't say
It
anything
was
when
a
she
hard
died.
decision. Tough decision.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really hard decision because I really wanted to save her, but I like me as a person, probably wouldn't be able to get through to her because I don't know how to handle it. So that's one of the reasons, and of course I didn't want to slap her. Nope, not after what happened.
In my defense, in that scene, and then we'll get back to the questions. In my defense, in that scene, I slapped her only because I knew that sometimes people will wake up after this, like they're in this I don't know what the word would be. I guess you could say they're in this stage where they want to move, but they can't move. And I felt like
it's horrible. It's the most horrifying feeling in the world.
So you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Would we call that a panic attack or?
Yes, a panic attack.
Yeah.
When you're in a panic stage, you want to move, but you can't move, and you're like frozen. I chose to hit her, not because I hated her. I mean, personally, I was neutral with her. I was like, okay, she can get annoying once in a while, but I still got to give her some company and give her a shot. I mean, it's wrong to just blow her off like that, but I can't let her off easily if she's just gonna act like a 3-year-old. But
then again, yeah, we have the same situation with Jane and her sister, where she decides to leave her because if she didn't leave her, they would probably both die. And that's the tough part, because I don't think Sarah wanted me to die. I mean, I didn't slap Sarah because I thought I was running out of time. I mean, either I can live, or we both could live, or it just... I had to make a choice between myself and Sarah.
And you chose death.
No, I chose life, in my opinion.
You were making a choice between Sarah dying or both Sarah and you dying.
Yeah.
That was the choice that you saw, and to you it made more sense to not both of you die, is what you were thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's nothing against her personally. It could be anyone frozen or in a weird situation. Well, actually, that's not true. Because I go into my Let's Play, because if there's someone I really, really care about, like if it was Lee, I would probably stay and die.
Of course, that's you.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a hypocrite, I guess.
At the end of the day, I think that all of us, when we're playing these games, we're going to make decisions for different reasons, and we can argue and debate over whether or not our reasons were right or wrong. But even if we make a decision, that doesn't necessarily mean that we don't feel guilty, or we don't feel bad, or we don't feel that human aspect of our decision. It doesn't mean that if I were to leave Sarah behind, that I would sleep well that night or the next several nights. So if that's any sort of sort of consolation, I'm not sure if that's enough. But
No, it's enough. Don't worry.
But yeah, hopefully you understand what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
So.
I think it's also important to mention the role that social Darwinism plays within the script of this. Okay, so I think that we began to talk about this earlier, and this is really controversial. It's Herbert Spencer kind of interpreted the words of Darwin in a social context, basically saying he coined the term survival of the fittest. And the thing is, The Walking Dead has used that phrase again and again, but usually in the comics it's associated with villains. Villains try to have try to kill off weak characters, try to kill off anyone that gets that gets in the way, usually has disabilities, in the same way that Nazis did, because they get in the way. It's the social Darwinism type of mentality. And the problem, though, is that this is kind of leaked into the story too, and it's kind of lowered the standard of like, okay, so if we have any type of character with any type of like mental or physical disability, that they are less likely to survive. But when the truth is that's not necessarily true. Like and that's the problem, that like social Darwinism has almost kind of like leaked into the story. And of course we know that like social Darwinism is like really problematic and just racist, really. Like it's really problematic, and it's kind of bad that it's leaked into the script so much. So
yeah. And I don't get it. I don't get it, because if you see humans, our first instinct is to protect the weak. Like if we see a baby, we want to protect the baby. If we see a puppy, we want to protect the puppy. But as soon in the games, as soon as the dead start walking around, suddenly no, only the strong survive. Only the fit survive. But no, like in real world, if that happened, the first thing people would do is to protect the weak, protect the children, protect the elder, the disabled. Not this. Like it's so dumb when games do that. Like just the survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
Because that's not the first human instinct. It's unrealistic to do that, because humans don't work like that.
But you could apply this to how would you be able to be like what do you call it? Social Darwinism?
Darwinism.
Yeah. If you had to kill, I mean, this is horrible, but the zombie apocalypse is all about horrible. If you had to kill someone who you thought was weak to save a good friend or your family, that's the link,
moral
I think,
choice
in many Walking Dead episodes. It's like, are you prepared to be a horrible or immoral or morally grey person to save yourself or those you care about? And it's a very uncomfortable feeling in action to think about, because I hate that. I hate the Nazis and racism and stuff like that. But I mean, if I had to choose, I mean, I can't even speak about this because I'm getting all riled up. It's horrible.
Uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable, and I don't want to feel those feelings at all. I want to I want to hug everyone.
Come here, David.
Especially Jane.
Come here.
The unfortunate thing is, go ahead, Logan.
I was gonna say, first of all, thank you all so much. We're already up to almost 50 watchers right now.
Oh.
Yay!
And I saw on the right, Brother Ralph posted a comment about our discussions with Sarah.
Okay, go ahead. What did he say?
Brother Ralph says, I feel Sarah was the antithesis of what Clem is. Clem gets stuck in and helps, and Sarah can't. She hides. And the reason I don't think has anything to do with disability. It's just the whole nature versus nurture thing. I'm thinking is Clem could easily have been just like Sarah had she had Carlos as her role model and mentor, and not Lee.
That's very true. I believe that's right. I believe that is true.
There's an interesting analysis of it.
The fact that Carlos, as a parent, as we saw, was very protective, almost smothering so, in trying to just keep her from even knowing that walkers were a thing and that the world was what it was. Which, as we've definitely seen, is not really the best way to handle being in an apocalypse. Is just outright denial.
Yeah. Like I totally see my family doing the same with me. What Carlos did with Sarah, I totally see my family doing the same with me. Because I'm so like Sarah. Yeah, I totally see them doing the same. But I still, like, if I was in that, I still know that I could learn. You know, like I see all these let's plays that just gave up. They just give up on Sarah. Like, no, she can't do it. But when I was 15 years old, people needed to be patient with me because it took me a while, but as soon as I got it, and I became almost perfect at it. So, yeah, it's just a thing of patience. If you don't have patience, it's okay.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, either I could totally see if Sarah got over, over the hump and becoming this like super focused zombie hunter like 10 years later.
I don't know about that.
Make or break, you know.
So I don't want to spend too much time because we still have a lot of questions. So if it's okay, I think we can move on to a different question now.
Should we do the popular one, which is again Brother Ralph, or should we do?
Alexandra, I just wanted to say before we move on, thank you for your candidness, and I appreciate your honesty. Again, it's great. It's great to have fresh, like I said, fresh people onto the panel because it's good to have more diverse representation, and you're really forcing us to think and rethink a lot of the things that we were.
Sarah and me, we are almost the same nationality, so.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So again, I appreciate your points of view, Alexandra.
Should we read Brother Ralph, the popular one, or should we read Duck McDuck?
We can read Brother Ralph David's because it actually sort of ties in with the previous question that we had before. If you want to read that one, David.
Brother Ralph's?
Yeah. Okay. It had a +9 right now.
Do you think it is possible that Clem will not feature in Series 3? Yeah, okay. Obviously, they can't do several entirely separate storylines, too much to animate. So, we know if she's with Kenny or Jane, she can't be with them long.
Ooh, I want to answer this, but let's see what David answers first.
I was never able to answer the previous question.
What did it say? Sorry, I didn't got it. I'm sorry. Your accent, man.
Do you think it's possible that Clem will not feature in Series 3?
Oh, okay.
I never gave my thoughts on Season 3, so if you allow me, I'd like to.
Yes,
of course.
The throne is yours.
No. Anyway, next question is.
Make me bring out my eye patch.
Yes, you need your eye patch. Where is it? I've been waiting.
I was waiting to get So somebody asked me a question on whether or not I think it was on a. Not here, but somewhere else, if they thought that Season 3 would star Clementine in the future, as in all grown up, many years in the future.
Yeah.
My thought was, I highly doubt that, because the video game is based off of the graphic novels, off of the comic book series, and Robert Kirkman, the writer of Walking Dead, has not gone far enough in the series to establish what the universe is like that many years down the line. That doesn't mean that Telltale can't do it, but it's just once they do it, they run the risk of, what's canon, what's not. Is this an alternate universe now? Because what if Robert Kirkman decides to go in a different direction with the universe, with the graphic novels? So that's why I think that if they were to have Clementine grow up and be the next protagonist as a grown-up, it gets really muddy, which is why I really like David's idea of having it be Krista, and go back and forth, maybe even go back and forth between her and Clementine until they finally meet. That would be really cool. Yeah. But what I do think will happen in Season 3, I actually still don't think that Clementine will be the main protagonist. She will probably appear, I don't know to what capacity. And Krista is a good candidate for the next character. They have to be careful with who they choose as the main protagonist in the next character, because everybody loved Lee. And when Lee was gone, Clementine really was what made sense for people to stick with the series in terms of having somebody that they really liked from Season 1 and were committed to. So I don't know how many huge fans of Krista there are. I know that people have varying degrees of how much they like her character, so I'm not sure how strong of a candidate she would be as being the next protagonist in that sense. I actually see them starting out with a whole new protagonist entirely, just so that they can start from scratch. And again, still run into Krista, still run into Clementine, and maybe they would still run into Krista from the past after she got attacked by bandits, and then still do what David was suggesting, and then run into Clementine later. It could go that way too. So that's my prediction for that season.
Yeah, but now let's answer the Brother Ralph question, unless we're just going to skip that one.
Yeah, if anybody wants to answer that one. I think a lot of us answered it already, but if anyone wants to add, go ahead, otherwise we'll move on.
I don't know what he means, like, do you think it is possible that Clem will not feature in series? Go ahead.
She won't, do you think
will not appear, yeah.
She won't appear.
Like, she will not be the main protagonist.
We'll be on another side, has the Walking Dead comics or anything ever explored what's happening on the other side of the country? So I know it's always been like predominantly in the east and the south. I heard is like where.
Yeah, I want to know what's happening, Pally. I want to know what's going on here.
Yeah, it's
You know what
weird.
I'm saying?
They've touched on
I
it.
feel like everyone in the north will die because they don't really know. They don't know how to, live how we Southerns do. We
I mean,
we still news
Us
do?
Floridans.
reshoot and drink beer, and that's all we do.
Let's get back
I just feel like everyone everywhere else died because
Sorry, Dave.
Southerners are the only ones that really know how to survive.
Okay, keep rubbing it in. Nobody likes you too. Bye bye.
David, did you have an answer for Brother Al's question? Or
I think I already answered
I did.
actually.
Well,
I think we've all answered it. Carson,
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance.
go ahead.
No, I think they're gonna have to include Clem. Like maybe she'll be a supporting character. She'll be like a really big supporting character. Some people will be like, "Well, we don't get to play Clem. Oh man, this sucks. I have to play as this other person." I do agree that we may have to play as a new protagonist, and we may build an interest towards Clem. But as a entirely separately storyline, too much to animate. I do agree that we probably will have to say goodbye to Kenny and Jane, whichever we chose early. But no, I obviously do not think they will disinclude Clem. They have to include her because there will be so many questions if we don't, unless we go with the Krista storyline idea.
Okay. Lucky Jack, do you want to give the next question?
Oh, okay. Okay, let me. With the plus 10, yes, from Duck McDuck. Do you think Hi, Duck. Do we think that some of the characters die too soon or live too much in the games? I'm assuming this is both Season 1 and Season 2 inclusive.
Sure.
Good
question.
Right. Yeah, very good question. I think...
You don't have to go first, Lucky Jack.
I'll go first if he doesn't. If he hasn't. If you don't have.
I'll say Nick lived too long. I think he lived. I'm saying.
Ouch.
Because I'm saying no, especially after what happened in season. Because I was surprised, frankly, in episode 2, after what Nick had done, and after how we broke it to the man who now had to face the consequences of Nick's actions up in the cabin. I was surprised that he was so forgiving.
I shoot first, think later. That's what I do.
Yeah, but I'm saying that guy, he had never met Nick before. He had no reason to like him or to trust him. The only thing he knew then at that moment was this person killed someone very, very close to me.
Do you mean Ben?
Was that his name?
No, he's talking about Nick killing the guy on the bridge.
Yeah.
Oh,
Matthew.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
Matthew.
And up in the cabin.
Yeah.
I thought that was. And when I saw that he had when he had the knife in his hand, I thought Nick was a dead man because there was like. So I'll say right there, I was surprised that Nick survived past episode 2, especially with that being in the way. And I would have seen Nick as being the guy who would have jumped way to conclusions like he did on the bridge and get too involved with Carver or whatever and get himself killed in the process as well. So definitely I think Nick lasted the longest to me, even surpassing what I would have thought possible for someone with his attitude and behavior.
Like I said, I shoot first, think later. What would you do in that situation, man? Your friends were in danger. I love pulling that up. But yes, I actually do agree. I do think some characters died too soon, and I'm going to start with Omid when Hark's reaction on episode 1. I just have to hit you there. I have to hit you there, Hark. But yes, I do think Omid died too soon. I thought he could have lived at least maybe 1 or 2 episodes longer. Like, maybe just in the first episode, and then he dies at the end and leave you there. That would have been really, I guess you could say heartbreaking, because Hark would have still cried over it.
It was heartbreaking.
But for characters who lived too much, I guess you could say Kenny, because we all expected Kenny to die in season 1, like me, and the correct answer, David, thought it was going to be, but apparently Kathleen had to pull some strings to make sure that actually happened. You know, but yeah, I do agree. I think some characters lived too much, and they killed some characters too quick. They should have done it in a slower pace on killing them quickly and try and not prolong how long these characters were going to live.
Yeah, episode 4 is a big example of that, because if you pay attention, all the characters, all the non-determinant characters that die on episode 4 are women of color. Like, did you realize that? Yeah,
Wow.
we have Sarita, Rebecca, and Sarah.
Wow.
And the only white woman who goes away at the end of the episode, she didn't die. She just went away. Who was Jane?
Yikes.
Yeah, all those 3 characters that died, they didn't have to. Like, seriously, what the heck were the writers thinking? They just got rid of all the female characters in that episode. That's one of the reasons why. Yeah, and if you realize, there's a big thing that a lot of people on Tumblr realized, that at the end of episode 3, the main group, all the characters that were alive at the end of episode 3 were more women than men. Because at the end of episode 3, we had Sarah, Sarita, Rebecca, Jane, Bonnie, and Clementine. We had 6 women, and we had Luke, Kenny, and a determinant Nick, and Mike.
Right, interesting.
Four guys and 6 women. And a lot of people on Tumblr wanted episode 4 soon, because the main group was formed. For the very first time, the main group had more women than men. And when episode 4 came, all the characters that died were women. So they all died too soon. Like, it was too forced. The way all 3 of them died too soon, in my opinion.
I do agree the deaths in episode 4 were definitely, they didn't feel. When you were and people who watched the episode 4 podcast, we talked about that. Just felt too. Yeah.
I'm just gonna answer this with no.
Okay.
No.
No.
If you decide to soon or live too much, no. I think it's.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's. I see. I mean, I think they died pretty much when I thought they would die. Not sooner, not later. I mean, Nick was kind of surprising, but well, didn't really care about him. And as for the episode 4, I don't see people as white or black. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I just see them, or women or female or men. I just see them as survivors. So I didn't even think about that it was women of color that died. I just thought that people died.
Yeah.
If that's a good or bad thing,
no,
it's up to people to decide.
It's up to Tumblr and Tumblr.
Yeah, it's up to 4chan, Reddit, and Tumblr to decide.
Yes.
I swear to God, I feel like we're at a panel at Comic-Con or something answering these questions.
Gigi, I think the dog in episode 1 died too soon.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I was gonna.
Yeah, that's true.
The dog too early. Should have been our best friend and betrayed us.
I honestly thought he was gonna be a companion.
Yeah.
I just thought he was gonna last longer than 10 minutes.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm surprised that none of you have mentioned. So my answer for season 1 is that I think that Carly and Doug should have survived way longer.
Yes.
Like whoever you chose. I chose Carly. But I think that it was obvious that they killed them off because, you know, it was someone that could have died in like the second episode, so they're like, oh, let's make this easier for the writers. But honestly, I think that character should have carried on to the second season. I really like that character, and I think, you know, you kind of develop a bond with either Carly or Doug. I think they're really interesting, and even Carly begins to have like a romance with Lee almost in the first season, and I honestly wish that Carly would have been carried on to the second season even more than Kenny. Like, even though I thought it was really interesting, don't kill me, Kenny fans. Even though I think it was really interesting having Kenny in the second season, and I thought he was a really interesting character and had a lot of his conflict was really great. But I think that I I don't know. I think they should have survived longer, and I was kind of pissed when they died. And I did not expect that. Also, for season 2, I almost want to say Carver, but in a way, Kenny kind of like started to embody some characteristics of Carver. That was just my theory, and I think like when I got here's Carson's shaking his head. But when I got to the last episode, I kind of saw that Kenny was the new conflict, and I liked that. But I feel like in episode 4, like the lack of Carver just made the whole episode just really boring, and I thought that Carver just gave the story so much interesting conflict, and I think he was a really great character, and they shouldn't have just killed him off like so soon. You know, it seemed like a little too easy to kill him.
I agree that Carver died too early, but I disagree that you said that Kenny is showing characteristics of Carver. I'm like, you have no idea, Missy. You have no idea.
I agree with Kathleen.
And you are a Kenny hater. You loved Kenny. Said, I knew it. He was coming back, and then you killed him. Oh.
No, I'm not a Kenny hater.
Kenny after all. Hide my gun.
He is
he
sexually
conflicts me. I like him, but
You loved him so much that you had to kill him.
Yes.
Actually, I have a question for you, Kathleen, if you don't mind. You said that you wanted Carly or Doug to live on, but that scene is so intense because you really do care about these characters, and then you just get shot. That shock factor. Would you like to have something else happen instead, or just skip that scene? Because that's one of the
like someone else gets shot or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, then that person
there's so many other characters that get killed later on. You know what I mean? But it would have been equally shocking, in my opinion. But I don't know.
I mean, nothing is right and wrong.
Yeah.
I disagree with David on
Excuse me?
I disagree. Yes.
You disagree with the correct answer.
I disagree with David on the aspect that you care about the two characters, Carly and Doug, because I honestly think that for most players, they didn't get to know the characters long enough for you to be able to care about both of them equally. I think that Carly had a lot more screen time than Doug, and that didn't help with the final polls. I mean, there's many reasons why people chose Carly over Doug, and I think part of it was you were able to spend more time with Carly. You were able to attach yourself to Carly more because you got that whole scene with her not only in the drugstore but also when you went to rescue Glenn, which you didn't have with Doug. And so for a lot of people, as the poll showed, it was an easy choice for them.
He was going to get one. Doug was going to get a kind of Motorin scene with kind of the thing. I think in the scene when they're trying to get the keys from Lee's brother, I think Doug was supposed to get in the truck, on Kenny's truck, I think, in some truck, and drive around distracting the zombies while you got the keys. But they got that scene out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Made the right call.
And the character I think lived way too long. It's Kenny. Like he's just.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's just go away, man. Just die already.
I chose to keep him alive because I couldn't kill him.
But
Go get it!
It's episode 4 because I'm so tired of the wounded warrior thing of staying.
The cycle,
And because it pisses me off, like Katja died for Kenny's development. And then in season 2, Sarita died for Kenny's development. And I'm like, stop! Stop! Just stop!
Do you have any love for any of the males to die?
Well, don't you?
Like this man is done for. Just go away.
It's more of the poor man. Like he's gone through so much. Just let him put him out of his misery.
Like it's not.
That's why I killed him because he's.
No, you didn't. You killed him because you love Jane more.
There's no antidepressants in the. Sorry, that's never mind. I didn't say that.
The man is surviving, but he's not living. Like it's going through all the loss he's feeling. There's no way for the poor man to live. So it's more of a mercy.
I didn't mean to make a depression joke.
Ouch.
No.
Moving on.
But I do agree with you, Kathleen. I just didn't want to see him repeat the same cycle over just for other people's destructive.
Only me and Hark made the right decision, and we're gonna get to that later.
To answer Duck McDuck's question as well, I actually mostly agree with David in that I think that I don't think anyone necessarily lived too long or died too soon. I think
Except for Omid.
even Omid, I mean, I understand why they killed Omid so quickly, because they wanted that shock, like, welcome, it's season 2.
Hey!
Surprise!
And Omid,
Trailers
Omid,
were
Omid
all
means hope. Angel, Omid, the name Omid means hope.
Omid does
So,
mean hope, and it killed.
when
Hope
he
was
died,
killed.
Yeah.
When Omid died.
The trailers made it seem like he was going to stick around for a while, and only to completely pull the rug out from underneath you. But if I were to choose someone that I thought died too soon, and this is not going to be a surprise to anyone because everybody knows how partial I am, I think that the game was setting up. It seemed like they were setting up a big showdown at the end between Luke and Kenny, as opposed to Jane and Kenny. It just felt like they were setting that up, and then when Luke died when he did, I was surprised, and I thought, well, then I guess it's Jane and...
That would have been such a tougher decision, too.
I think so, too.
Oh,
We know who you would have chose, Mr. Angel Arts.
Oh, I know what I would have chosen. I know who I would have chosen.
I would have had a hard time with that. I don't know.
I agree with Kathleen. I would have had a hard time also.
Look forever.
I would
Okay.
have...
I wanna get to this next question. I think I might say this name wrong, so don't hate me if I do. Yonch Lin, is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is the one I want to answer. I'm gonna skip over Duck McDuck, even though he's got a majority.
We just answered his question. So
No, it's the what do you guys think of a DLC for season 2?
we can go to Yonch's since we've already answered Duck's question. Go ahead.
Yeah, we've.
We'll go.
Okay, who would you choose to be with Clem in the end of season 2? If you can choose any character from season 1 or 2 except Lee. So pretty much he's asking, of any characters of all of season 1 and 2, who would you want to be with the most at the end of season 2?
And I'm assuming Yonch is saying if they're still alive.
Yeah,
I'm
if they're
assuming
still alive.
If they're still alive.
With Clementine.
Yeah,
with
with Clementine at the end of season 2.
Any character?
Any character, yeah, I would say any character, even as
In Walking Dead universe.
right.
Can't have
Huh.
Assume that they lived. If they had died, just assume that they lived.
Okay, let me think. This is a very tough one because I.
Oh no, it's very easy.
Okay, quiet,
David has the correct
quiet.
answer.
Go
We
for
already-
it. I can already tell it. Does it rhyme with Polly?
No.
No,
Okay.
it's Jane. We know
It's,
his
yeah,
answer.
it's Jane. Totally Jane.
But you already had Jane.
If I had to choose, I guess I would choose Kenny still because I just love the way it ended at season 2 with Wellington and the way it was right there. Literally, it was right there. We were right there. We got turned away. Kenny's sacrificing himself in order to let AJ and Clem get in. And you're torn up about that, really. But if I couldn't choose Kenny, I know another character I would name. But the way it ended with Kenny, it was pure emotional, make me shed man tears. And if I couldn't choose Kenny, like for that ending, like if he wants a different one, I guess I would choose Pete. Like Pete was like a really cool guy to talk to and get along with, and I was so sad that he died. The way he died in my walkthrough, it was really sad. At least. But yeah, I overall I would choose either Kenny or Pete.
Okay. Anyone else?
Okay, David, we're skipping you because we know your choice already.
Yeah, I mean Jane because I'm gonna give my reason as well.
Go ahead.
Reasoning. It's because she really cares about Clementine. She's very good with what she's doing. She's a survivor, and they have already bonded. And I just think that it's a good pairing. They trust each other, kinda-ish.
Mhm.
After that last, if you stick with Jane after she forced you to kill Kenny, I mean, then that's gonna last for a very long time. So yeah, that's why.
Okay.
I think that should have been with her at the end. I think that Luke should have been able to survive and.
Oh, I
at the
see.
end. Sorry, just I didn't see the gesture, whatever. I think Luke. I would have liked to see Luke be with her at the end, just because she had more of a chemistry. Not in that sense, you know what I mean, chemistry. She had more of a bond or whatever with him than she did with Jane. She had more time to connect with him, and who knows, Jane may have been able to also survive as well. If it's supposed to have two of them and not just one, I would have Luke and Jane. have all the awkwardness.
Yes, the wannabe big brother and the wannabe big sister getting along with each other very closely. They're playing the kissing game.
They're just kissing and stuff.
Kissing stuff.
Kissing.
Yes, exactly.
That's exactly right.
I love that line so much. Anyway.
Do you have any time for kissing?
Anyone else?
At the very first, when Luke was presented and the idea of Clem ending up alone with someone, I of course wanted Luke. I wanted Luke, like above everyone else. I wanted Luke. But when episode 4 came out and Luke did what he did, I was like, no, I'm not trusting Clementine with this guy. Like, no, that's not happening.
I love this girl. I love her.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So right now, I don't know. It's kind of hard. I could have liked to see the dynamic of Clem and Sarah ending up alone and Clem having to take care of Sarah. Which
Oh
would be
no.
really interesting.
That's more of a burden than
In my
anything.
opinion.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
I think that would be cool.
But no, if I had to choose an adult, I could go with Mike.
Mike?
Ooh.
Mike is cool.
Okay.
Mike's good, yeah, he's a nice guy.
Please, I beg of all you fans watching this, I beg of you, make a concept of David saying the black guy and the traitor. I want to see it.
Oh my God.
I want to see it.
That meme. Somebody's gonna post it, I'm sure. Okay.
I beg of you guys.
All right.
Go ahead. Has everybody answered the question?
Oh, I haven't.
It's only Kathleen and you that have an answer.
Kathleen? Okay, go ahead, Kathleen.
Oh, I was just gonna completely agree with Logan. I mean,
The Luke and Jane thing?
yeah, Luke and Jane. I want that to happen. Although I don't want that. I don't know how I feel about them as a couple. I just thought they just had a little. Yeah, to let off some steam. Like I didn't see
Just
them as
that
a
one night
romantic
stand?
couple. Yeah, like I saw them as a one night stand. I really see them as a couple. So. I feel like it'd be really awkward with them together, but I like them with Clem, so yeah.
I'm going to disagree with you on that, Kat, because if you saw in episode 5, Jane did seem a little emotional. She didn't show it, but she was showing a little emotion of the loss of Luke, and she showed she really cared about him. So I think it could have been a couple. They could have been a couple in the future if Luke had survived.
I just figured Jane is someone that like wouldn't be in a long-term thing, but maybe that's just my opinion of her. I don't know.
She's too pragmatic to be in a long-term relationship in the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
It personally surprised me when she came back and stuff.
Mhm.
I wasn't expecting after what happened for her to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So awesome.
My top pick for Clementine actually is also Jane. I chose her over Luke just because I think that she is probably, between the two of them, I think Jane would survive, had an easier time to survive. And while Clementine definitely had that big older brother, little sister dynamic, I think Jane and Clementine were developing and had a potential to have a really great older sister, younger sister relationship too. And so that would be number 1. Luke would probably be number 2, and then number 3 for me for Clementine would be Molly.
Really?
Molly, yeah. Again, because I think Molly, again, she's also very capable. The thing that makes Molly a lot lower than the other two is that I don't think she really bonded with Clementine. She didn't really seem that attached to her, but I think that over time they probably would. So.
Yeah. I got no comments towards it, actually.
I'm sorry?
No comment towards that, actually, because I agree that they were forming a little big sister, little sister relationship, and I felt like Clem was just replacing Jane's sister, and I I kind of felt that was a little weird at first. But,
Fair enough.
Yeah. I would still choose Kenny and Pete.
Okay.
Awesome duo right there. All right.
So, are we doing Duck and Ducks or Brother Ralph's?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and do Duck or Ducks.
What would you think of a DLC for season 2 if it had like 5 stories like 400 days? And I'm going to add a little bit on to that question. What would you think of a DLC period for season 2?
I mean, if it was done, I mean, I like 400 days DLC.
I didn't.
But I would like it to have more consequence going into the next season.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Either you play as the characters, or you see them more, or there's just something more. Cause I mean Wyatt, he needed more screen time, man.
Yes, because
awesome.
Obviously that's who.
And I was genuinely like, I wanted to know what happened to Eddie. I mean,
Who's
I wanted
Eddie?
to go out there, and Eddie's was the guy he left with the car.
Oh yeah, you're right. Right.
Yeah.
His boyfriend.
Right.
That's what I thought.
That's what I want.
Oh God. Okay, well, like I said, I just blurted it out because it's true. 400 days, completely pointless. Now, when we look at season 2, it was completely pointless. Only Bonnie was the only relevant thing in that whole story. But if they were gonna do a DLC for season 2 with 5 stories, I wouldn't agree with the 5 stories. I just want them to do a DLC where, let's say, it's just 1 and 2 characters that play a small role in this whole DLC, but then when season 3 comes by, it plays a bigger role, and that they will have more consequences, and it'll be more heartbreaking to see them go.
You know
Is
what?
it that you don't like the stories that were presented, or did you not like that it didn't have any meaning to?
It didn't have any meaning. 400 Days didn't have any meaning. It was no relevance to season 2. Like, they just popped up and then, they're gone.
Yeah.
Only Bonnie was the only one that stayed, and I got a little upset with that. I was okay with it at first, but then once we look at season 2, like, yeah, it was completely pointless.
You know what I'd like to see? You know what I'd like to see actually for a DLC?
I want to hear Luke. I want to hear.
I'd like to see a DLC where it's the 400 Days crew and their experiences and opinions of being in Carver Town and seeing what their actions are going through, and adjusting to that, realizing that to some extent they're kind of the bad guys. When most of them, especially people like Russell, they don't feel like they want to be bad guys, but here they are. And also what happened, because when we last see them, they're shooting, they're defending against the onslaught of walkers we just called over with some nice jazzy radio tunes. But then when we return, for some of us who got the ending, the whole place is deserted. It seems abandoned, and we don't know what became of them. And they don't seem like the people that they would get overrun. They had automatic weapons. So something happened where they either said let's just leave, or so
it was a big zombie horde.
Yeah, but they had the high ground. It just seemed like it did not seem like they would just fall that quickly with the amount of resources and things they had.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a completely different opinion on what I want a next DLC to be. I don't want there to be another DLC like 400 Days. I want, if they do have a DLC, I want it to be about the characters that we played about. Like, I want it to be with Clementine. And, like, most DLCs are like that. They usually involve the main characters. Like, if they could even cover some of the time that Clementine spent with Krista, like, in a DLC, and that would make a really interesting DLC. Like, they could do a DLC that, like, is before the events of season 3. I think there's so much potential for that, and I think more people want to hear about Clementine and her story than anything else. So, yeah, and maybe even they could even do a DLC about when the gap between season 1 and season 2, like what happened, her meeting up with Krista and Omid, maybe even being alone for a period of time before she met up with them, and how she got through that, like when she was much younger. Like there's a lot of potential for something like that, you know.
That did not look like a train station where she was meeting them. That did not look like a train. They were out in the middle of a field.
Yeah.
But she had one job that Amanda Knox
You had one job.
I'd be happy to see you meet again, definitely.
Yeah.
Again, I'm fine with the DLC. Only if I agree with David. And Carson, it actually had more meaning to season 3, because I think that would otherwise, if they're not going to have it tie into season 3 enough, they might as well just focus all their time and resources on season 3.
Yeah.
Instead of making a DLC. I do like the idea of telling the story of Krista or filling in some gaps in between. If that was the case, I would be all for that, because even though it's not necessarily related to season 3, it bridges the gap between season 2 and season 3. We have a bunch of +5s. So does somebody want to pick one of the +5s?
I don't see any of the +5s.
You have to scroll down.
Pick one that we haven't someone that we haven't read yet.
Yeah, we've already I think answered Faraz Tahir's questions before, I think. So.
Please let me answer Shinteri me, or at least
okay.
I beg of you, you want to read it.
Read that out loud. I think it's a good question too. Go ahead, Carson.
Okay, I'll read it then. What was the choice, or the choices, meaning more than one, you could have 20 for all I care, in game that you made feel the least comfortable and morally speaking? And I would still like to point out that Luke/Logan is the big thief in our group.
Oh, shut up! But I will say that. But I will say that was one that made me feel like I don't.
Are they talking about the first and second season, or just the second season overall?
In the game, since this is season 2 podcast,
let's keep it to season 2. Let's keep it to season 2.
In truth, I guess. I guess I had like a few really. It's just in episode 1, if you wanted to share your food with the dog, or do you want to actually just feed yourself more? That actually is a moral decision. Like, do you want to actually share your food and get less and feel less hungry, or do you want to not feed the dog? And then there's also if you choose to forgive Nick or not forgive Nick. I mean, you could still be mad at him for almost shooting your head off. You know, I almost shot Clem off. You know, just saying, Kat. You know, just saying. I'm a trigger happy finger person. But it is a moral decision. Then there's episode 2 where you help Walter try and forgive Nick. That is a moral decision. It's very tough to do. And the last one I guess you could think of is episode 5. There's a few in there. And I just can't name them all, but it's just season 2 really tests your morality. It's season 4. Yeah. In season 4, the one that made me feel least comfortable, there was none in episode 4 because I knew what I was doing. I knew what was right, unlike Mr. Luke.
Of course, it's because you got that itchy trigger finger on the escape key that at a moment's notice you can just get everything.
So that's how we're gonna do it, huh? That's how we're gonna do it.
Oh, yeah, I could have maybe thought about stealing or not stealing had I had 5 minutes time or so to just really laid out everything, but no, I just had 30 seconds or so like I was given.
Oh, that's cold, man.
Somebody else?
Come on,
for me, even though I've gotten a lot of flack for my decision in the last episode of season 2, especially from Carson.
Shooting Kenny.
Hey, that last decision was probably the hardest decision. One of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make in a game. It was so hard. Like,
so it wasn't comfortable though, was it?
It was not comfortable. Like, it wasn't even like I thought.
Whoa.
It sounded like there was a demon.
Child.
I think we just summoned something evil here.
Yeah,
it's just my presence. When you hear something, it's gonna be near.
It's time for peaches at that point.
Yeah. But anyways, like, what was I saying?
You were saying it was very uncomfortable.
It was uncomfortable
so uncomfortable, honestly, because not only did I have all these people watching me, play because I played it on Twitch. So I was like, oh my god, like people are gonna judge me for my decision. Also, I had already had it spoiled that there was gonna be some kind of decision between like Kenny and someone else. So I thought, oh, of course I'm gonna pick Kenny. But when it actually came down to it, I was like, I don't know if I can pick Kenny, and it would just suck because I did not want to hurt Kenny. And even like after I did it, I was just like, oh my god, like this sucks. So that's not a decision I would ever want to make. Like I'd never want to have to like shoot my friend. But I feel like I made the right decision for me, but it sucked. So yeah, made me uncomfortable.